Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Grace Library for Friday morning story time. I'm Miss Bryce, and I am here in the children's room to share a story and a craft with you today. So today I wanted to share one of my favorite stories of all time, one of my favorite children's books called Library Lion by Michelle Nedson, illustrated by Kevin Hawkes. Shout out to Candlewick Press. Library Lion. One day, a lion came to the library. He walked right past the circulation desk and up into the stacks. Mr. McBee ran down the hall to the head librarian's office. "Miss Merriweather," he called. "No running," said Miss Merriweather, without even looking up. "But there's a lion," said Mr. McBee, "in the library." "Is he breaking any rules?" asked Miss Merriweather. She was very particular about rule breaking. "Well, no," said Mr. McBee, "not really." "Then leave him be." The lion wandered all around the library. He sniffed the card catalog. He rubbed his head against the new book collection. Then he padded over to the story corner and went to sleep. No one was sure what to do. There weren't any rules about lions in the library. Soon it was time for story hour. There weren't any rules about lions at story hour either. The story lady seemed a little nervous, but she read out the first book's title in a good, clear voice. The lion looked up. The story lady kept reading. The lion stayed for the next story and the story after that. He waited for another story, but the children began to walk away. "Story hour is over," the little girl told him. "It's time to go." The lion looked at the children. He looked at the story lady. He looked at the closed books. Then he roared very loud. "Roar!" Miss Merriweather came striding out of her office. "Who is making that noise?" she demanded. "It's the lion," said Mr. McBee. Miss Merriweather marched over to the lion. "If you cannot be quiet, you will have to leave," she said in a stern voice. "Those are the rules." The lion kept roaring. He sounded sad. The little girl tugged on Miss Merriweather's dress. "If he promises to be quiet, can he come back for story hour tomorrow?" she asked. The lion stopped roaring. He looked at Miss Merriweather. Miss Merriweather looked back. Then she said, "Yes, a nice, quiet lion would certainly be allowed to come back for story hour tomorrow." "Hooray!" said the children. The next day, the lion came back. "You are early," said Miss Merriweather. "Story hour is not until 3 o'clock." The lion did not budge. "Very well," said Miss Merriweather. "You might as well make yourself useful." She sent him off to dust the encyclopedias until it was time for story hour. The next day, the lion came in early again. This time, Miss Merriweather asked him to lick all the envelopes for the overdue notices. Soon, the lion began doing things without being asked. He dusted the encyclopedias, he licked the envelopes, he let small children stand on his back to reach books on the highest shelves. Then he curled up in the story corner to wait for story hour to begin. This lion really loves the library, doesn't he? And he's so helpful and kind. At first, the people in the library were nervous about the lion, but soon they got used to having him around. In fact, he seemed very well suited for the library. His big feet were quiet on the library floor. He made a comfy backrest for the children at story hour, and he never roared in the library anymore. "What a helpful lion," people said. They patted his soft head as he walked by. "How did we ever get along without him?" Mr. McBee scowled when he heard that. Scowled means you make a scrunched up face like this. They had always gotten along fine before. No lions were needed. Lions, he thought, could not understand rules. They did not belong in the library. See, you can see Mr. McBee scowling in the corner. Everyone else is smiling, though. Even the lion. One day, after he had dusted all the encyclopedias and licked all the envelopes and helped all the small children, the lion padded down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office to see what else there was to do. There was still some time left before story hour. "Hello, Lion," said Miss Merriweather. "I know something you can do. You can bring a book back to the stacks for me. Let me just get it down from the shelf." Miss Merriweather stepped up onto the stool. The book was just out of reach. Miss Merriweather stood on her toes. She stretched out her fingers. "Almost there," she said. Then Miss Merriweather stretched a little too far. Uh-oh, what do you think happened? "Oh, no." "Ouch," said Miss Merriweather. She did not get up. "Mr. McBee," she called after a minute. "Mr. McBee!" But Mr. McBee was at the circulation desk. He could not hear her calling. "Lion," said Miss Merriweather, "please go and get Mr. McBee." The lion ran down the hall. "No running," Miss Merriweather called after him. He put his big front paws up on the circulation desk and looked at Mr. McBee. "Go away, Lion," said Mr. McBee. "I'm busy." The lion whined. He pointed his nose down the hall towards Miss Merriweather's office. Mr. McBee ignored him. Finally, the lion did the only thing he could think of to do. He looked at Mr. McBee right in the eye. He opened his mouth very wide, and he roared the loudest roar he had ever roared in his life. Roar! Mr. McBee gasped. "You're not being quiet," he said to the lion. "You're breaking the rules." Mr. McBee walked down the hall as fast as he could. The lion did not follow him. He had broken the rules. He knew what that meant. He hung his head and walked towards the door. How do you think the lion's feeling right now? Mr. McBee did not notice. "Miss Merriweather," he called as he walked. "Miss Merriweather." The lion broke the rules. The lion broke the rules. He burst into Miss Merriweather's office. She was not in her chair. "Miss Merriweather?" he asked. "Sometimes," said Miss Merriweather from the floor behind her desk, "there is a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Now please go call a doctor. I think I've broken my arm." Mr. McBee ran to call a doctor. "No running," said Miss Merriweather. The next day, things were back to normal. Almost. Miss Merriweather's left arm was in a cast. The doctor had told her not to work too hard. "I will have my lion to help me," Miss Merriweather thought. But the lion did not come to the library that morning. Why do you think he didn't come? At 3 o'clock, Miss Merriweather walked over to the story corner. The story lady was just beginning a story for the children. Do you see the lion? I don't either. The lion was not there. People in the library kept looking up from their books and computer screens, hoping they would see a familiar furry face. But the lion did not come that day. The lion did not come the next day either, or the day after that. One evening, Mr. McBee stopped by Miss Merriweather's office on his way out. "Can I do anything for you before I go, Miss Merriweather?" he asked her. "No, thank you," Miss Merriweather said. She was looking out the window. Her voice was very quiet, even for the library. Mr. McBee frowned as he walked away. He thought there probably was something he could do for Miss Merriweather after all. What do you think he's going to do? Mr. McBee left the library, but he did not go home. He walked around the neighborhood. He looked under cars. He looked behind bushes. What do you think he's looking for? I think I know. He looked in backyards and trash cans and tree houses. Finally, he circled all the way back to the library. The lion was sitting outside looking in through the glass doors. "Hello, Lion," said Mr. McBee. The lion did not turn around. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there's a new rule at the library. No roaring allowed unless you have a very good reason. Say, if you're trying to help a friend who's been hurt, for example." The lion's ears twitched. He turned around, but Mr. McBee was already walking away. The next day, Mr. McBee walked down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office. "What is it, Mr. McBee?" asked Miss Merriweather in her new, sad, quiet voice. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there's a lion in the library." Miss Merriweather jumped up from her chair and ran down the hall. Mr. McBee smiled. "No running," he called after her. Miss Merriweather didn't listen. Sometimes there was a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Guess who came back? The lion. Everyone's so happy. I love that story. Can you imagine if you went to Storytime at the library and there was a lion there? How amazing would that be? Well, for now anyways, I don't have a real lion, but I thought it might be fun to make your very own lion using your handprint. So if you were able to pick up a craft kit, there is a little rectangular piece of paper here in yellow, and so what you're going to do is there are some things in the craft kit that came in the bag, but what you're also going to need is a pair of scissors, a marker or a pencil or a crayon, and a glue stick or some craft glue. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of yellow paper that is in the bag, and you're going to trace your hand. Now if you don't know how to trace your hand, it's pretty easy. It's easier if you put your hand and your paper down on the table, but I'm going to just try to do it up this way just to show you. So I'm just going to take this right here. So you just want to make sure that you don't move your hand while you're doing this. And you're going to just take your marker, your crayon, or your pencil and go all around each one of your fingers until you've gone all the way around your hand. Okay, and then what you'll do is you'll take your scissors and you'll cut out the shape of your hand. Now, I know it doesn't look like a lion yet, but bear with me. You've got some different pieces in your kit, and when you put them all together, it does look like a lion. And the cool thing about it is that it's in the shape of your hand. And even when you grow, you'll still be able to keep hold of this little lion, and when you're all big and strong and grown up, you can look back and be like, look how little my hand was. So when I cut my hand out, you can see my thumb, where my thumb was, and where all my fingers were. So the next thing that I'm going to do is there's a silly looking piece like this. It's a little yellow rectangle with a little orange piece on the end. That's going to become the lion's tail. So I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the side over here where my pinky would be. Pinky is your little finger. And I'm going to stick that right over there. There we go. That'll be his tail. And then what you're going to do is I'm going to put my glue stick down for just a minute because I don't need it. I'm actually going to find my crayon or my marker. And what I'm going to do is there's two pieces of colored paper. There is a orange round shaped piece, and then there's a little piece that sort of looks like a head, but something's missing. A few things are missing actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of envision this will become the lion's head. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to decide, where should I put his eyes, do you think? I'm going to put them kind of in the middle. And I have two googly eyes in the kit, but you can draw your eyes if you want. You can always add more detail to it. Maybe you want to give your lion some eyelashes. I might give mine some eyelashes. Here we go. See? All right, but my lion is missing a nose and a mouth, so I'm just going to draw one. And you can make your lion be smiling. He can be roaring. Mine's just going to be smiling because I'm thinking of the library lion and how he's using his inside voice, or he's being quiet at the library, right? But he is happy because he loves the library and he loves reading books. Maybe I'll give him some whiskers. And then maybe I'll add some detail on his mane. So the mane is that big furry around his face, right? So I'm going to add some detail around his mane, like this, all the way around. The mane is usually a different color from his face. Lots of different colors, browns and oranges and golds, sometimes a little black fur. So I just wanted to add a little detail there. Now I'm going to get my glue stick back, and I'm going to make sure that his face and his mane stay together because that's important. I'm just going to put some glue on my mane, my lion's face, and then I'm going to decide, where do I want to put his head? I'm going to attach it to the body. So I think I'm going to put it over here on the thumb. There we go. So now I've made my very own library lion, and you've made one too. I hope that you enjoyed it. So now he's got all the parts of a lion, right? He's got the tail, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 legs, he's got a big, beautiful mane, he's got eyes and a nose, and he's smiling, he's a happy lion. So if you want to share how your lion came out, you can take a picture and send it to us if you like, and if not, that's okay too. You can put it on the fridge or give it to somebody special if you like. So I hope you enjoyed our craft and our story today, and I hope you have a lovely weekend with your family, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.